Part 1. The stars looked different now that humanity could reach them. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant and watched the alien ships appear on his screen. There were 12 of them, each one representing a different species from across the galaxy. They had come to meet humanity for the first time, and Jake knew this meeting would decide Earth's future. Admiral Linda Hayes stood beside him, her face calm despite the tension in the room. She had been chosen to represent all of humanity in this first contact with the Galactic Council. The Council was old, incredibly old. They had been exploring space for 10,000 years while humans were still learning to make fire. Now they wanted to see if humanity deserved a place among the stars. The holographic display flickered to life, and a tall reptilian creature appeared. His scales were dark green and his eyes were cold and calculating. This was Vexthor, the Council's spokesman. He began to speak, and the computer translated his words into English. Humans of Earth, we welcome you to the galactic community. We have observed your recent achievement of faster-than-light travel. This is a significant milestone for any species. However, before you can join the Council, we must evaluate your civilization. Jake watched as Admiral Hayes nodded politely. She had been trained for this moment, prepared for every possibility, but what came next was something nobody had expected. Vexthor explained that the Council had a system for ranking every species they encountered. It was based on technology, military strength, and overall capability. The scale went from level 1 to level 10. Level 1 species had just discovered spaceflight. Level 10 species could destroy entire star systems with their weapons. The ranking determined everything: trade agreements, territorial rights, political influence, and most importantly, independence. Lieutenant Chris Bennett, who handled communications, listened carefully as Vexthor continued. The Council had sent survey teams to observe Earth. They had studied human technology, counted the ships in Earth's fleet, and analyzed human weapons. They had made their assessment, and it was not good. Based on our evaluation, humanity is classified as a Level 2 civilization. Your technology is primitive compared to most Council members. Your weapons are crude. Your fleet consists of 47 vessels, none of which could survive an encounter with even a Level 4 patrol craft. We must therefore offer you 2 options. The bridge went silent. Everyone waited to hear what came next. First, you may accept protectorate status under the Zorathian Empire. They will provide protection and guidance as you develop. Second, you may remain in your current space with strict boundaries. You will not be permitted to expand beyond your current star system without Council approval. These are the only options available to a Level 2 civilization. Jake felt his hands tighten into fists. A protectorate was just another word for colony. They would be servants to an alien empire, with no real freedom or independence. The second option was almost as bad. Humanity would be trapped in their own corner of space, unable to grow or explore. But Admiral Hayes did not look worried. In fact, she smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but Jake had worked with her long enough to recognize it. That smile meant she had a plan. Thank you for your assessment, Vexthor. We appreciate the Council's thoroughness. However, humanity will need time to consider these options. We request 1 standard galactic year to deliberate and prepare our response. Vexthor seemed amused by this. Very well, 1 year. But understand that these options will not change. Your ranking is based on objective analysis. The transmission ended and the alien ships began to move away. As soon as they were gone, Jake turned to Admiral Hayes. Ma'am, what are you planning? We both know neither of those options is acceptable. Admiral Hayes looked around at her command staff. She had handpicked each of them for this mission. She trusted them completely. We're going to do what humanity does best, Commander. We're going to lie. The words hung in the air. Lieutenant Bennett looked confused. Lie? How do you lie about an entire civilization's capabilities? We don't lie about what we have, Admiral Hayes explained. We lie about what they think we have. The Council sent survey teams, yes, but they only saw what was visible. They counted our ships, but didn't ask about the ones they couldn't see. They analyzed our weapons, but didn't question whether we might have better ones hidden away. They made assumptions, and we're going to use those assumptions against them. She pulled up a star chart on the main display. For 10,000 years, the Council has been evaluating species. They have a system, a process, a set of rules they follow. Every species they've encountered has been predictable. They evolved slowly, developed technology in logical steps, and fit neatly into the Council's classification system. But humans are different. We're chaotic, unpredictable, and we've survived things that should have killed us a dozen times over. Jake began to understand. You want to make them think we're more advanced than we are. Not just more advanced. I want them to think we're level 8. I want them to believe that we deliberately showed them only our oldest, most primitive technology. I want them to wonder what else we're hiding. Lieutenant Bennett raised his hand like a student in class. But ma'am, if they investigate, if they look closer, they'll discover the truth. Then we make sure they don't look too closely. We give them just enough information to draw their own conclusions. We let their imaginations do the work for us. And most importantly, we buy time. Time to actually develop the technology we're going to claim we have. In 1 year, we need to go from level 2 to at least level 5 in reality, while convincing them we're level 8. She turned back to face her crew. This mission is classified at the highest level. What we're about to do has never been attempted before. We're going to bluff our way to a seat at the galactic table, and then we're going to work day and night to make that bluff into reality. The survival of Earth depends on it. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. It was an insane plan, but insane plans seemed to work for humanity. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and near-extinction events. Each time they had adapted and overcome. Maybe they could do it again. What's our first step? He asked. Admiral Hayes smiled again, and this time it was wider, more confident. We go back to Earth and assemble a team. We need scientists, engineers, intelligence officers, and military strategists. We need the best and brightest humanity has to offer, and we need them to believe that this impossible plan can actually work. The Defiant turned toward home, its engines pushing it faster through space. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued about their business, unaware that humanity had just decided to rewrite the rules of the game. They had given Earth 1 year to decide between servitude and isolation. They had no idea that humanity was planning a third option, one that would shake the foundations of the entire galactic order. In 1 year, everything would change. The question was whether humanity could pull off the greatest deception in history, or whether their lie would destroy them before they had a chance to make it true. Part 2. 3 weeks after the meeting with the Galactic Council, Admiral Linda Hayes walked through the underground facility in Colorado. The place had been built during the old wars, designed to survive nuclear attacks. Now it would serve a different purpose. It would become the birthplace of humanity's greatest deception. The conference room was packed with people. Scientists, military officers, intelligence agents, and engineers filled every seat. They had been brought here in secret, told only that they were working on a project vital to Earth's survival. Now Admiral Hayes would tell them exactly what that meant. She stood at the front of the room and began. Thank you all for coming. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. You cannot discuss this with anyone outside this room, not even your families. The Galactic Council has evaluated humanity and found us lacking. They want us to become a protectorate or stay isolated in our own star system. We are going to give them a third option, but it requires something unprecedented. We are going to convince them that humanity is one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. The room erupted in confused voices. A woman in the front row raised her hand. She was Dr. Helen Carter, one of Earth's leading physicists. Admiral, with all respect, how is that possible? They've already evaluated us. They know our capabilities. They know what we showed them, Admiral Hayes corrected. They don't know what we're capable of when we're properly motivated. Dr. Carter, you specialize in holographic technology and quantum mechanics. Can we create projections convincing enough to fool advanced sensors? Helen thought for a moment. Theoretically, yes. If we use quantum entanglement to synchronize multiple projectors, we could create holographic ships that would appear real on most scanning systems. But the power requirements would be enormous and the range would be limited. What if we position unmanned probes with these projectors throughout human space? Could we make it appear as if we have hundreds of ships instead of dozens? Helen's eyes widened as she understood the scope of the plan. It would take months to build the equipment and years to perfect it, but yes, it could work. At least for a while. A man in a dark suit stood up next. This was Marcus Webb, a former intelligence operative who had spent 2 decades creating false information campaigns. Admiral, you're talking about deception on a galactic scale. The logistics alone are staggering. Every human who has contact with alien species would need to maintain the same story. One slip, one mistake, and the entire operation collapses. That's why we're going to train everyone. Every officer, every diplomat, every crew member will know exactly what to say and what not to say. We'll create a false history for humanity. Evidence of past conflicts and victories that never happened. We'll make the Council believe that we've been hiding our true strength because we didn't trust them. Captain Nicole Sanders, a decorated military officer, spoke up. What about actual combat? If we're claiming to be a level 8 civilization, we need weapons that match that claim. We can't fake our way through a real battle. Admiral Hayes nodded. You're right. That's why we need to be smart about when and where we fight. We'll choose our battles carefully. Use tactics that maximize confusion and minimize direct engagement. We'll make every encounter so chaotic that the enemy can't get accurate readings on our real capabilities. She pulled up a star chart showing the surrounding space. There's a species called the Kryn. They're pirates, level 5 civilization, and they're hated by most of the galactic community. They recently attacked a peaceful colony, and the Council issued complaints but took no real action. If we were to defeat the Kryn decisively, it would send a message. Marcus Webb smiled. And it would give us credibility. Nothing proves strength like a visible victory. Exactly. But we need to be ready. That means spending the next 6 months building the technology, training the personnel, and creating the infrastructure for this deception. Dr. Carter, you'll head the technology division. Marcus, you'll handle intelligence and information control. Captain Sanders, you'll coordinate military training and operations. Over the following months, the facility became a hive of activity. Dr. Helen Carter's team worked around the clock developing holographic projectors. They created devices that could mimic the energy signatures of advanced warships. Each projector was small enough to fit on an unmanned probe, but powerful enough to fool even sophisticated sensors. Lieutenant Amy Foster, a young engineer with a gift for creative problem-solving, made a breakthrough. She discovered that by manipulating the energy readings from human ships, they could make them appear much more powerful than they actually were. A single destroyer could be made to look like a battle cruiser. It wasn't about changing the ship itself, just changing what sensors detected. It's like wearing platform shoes, Amy explained to her team. You're not actually taller, but everyone thinks you are because they're measuring from the ground up. Meanwhile, Marcus Webb's intelligence team created an entire fictional history for humanity. They fabricated records of ancient wars against alien invaders, conflicts that humanity had supposedly won using advanced technology. They created evidence of hidden research facilities and secret weapons programs. Every piece of false information was designed to support the narrative that humanity had been hiding its true capabilities. The most controversial part of the plan came during a late-night meeting. Marcus presented his idea to Admiral Hayes in private. We need casualties. Not our casualties, but we need to hurt someone badly enough that the entire galaxy takes notice. The Kryn are the perfect target, but we need to make the victory look easy. We need to make it look like we were holding back. Admiral Hayes stared at him for a long moment. You're talking about killing potentially thousands of beings just to maintain our cover story. I'm talking about survival. The Kryn are pirates and murderers. They've killed thousands themselves. If we don't do this, if we don't establish our reputation now, we'll be forced into servitude. Every human in the galaxy will suffer. Sometimes the moral choice is the one that saves the most lives, even if it costs some in the process. It was a harsh calculation, but Admiral Hayes knew he was right. She approved the operation, but the weight of that decision would stay with her forever. As the months passed, the pieces fell into place. Human ships were retrofitted with Amy Foster's energy modification systems. Unmanned probes carrying holographic projectors were positioned throughout human space. Every officer and crew member underwent intensive training on maintaining the deception. They practiced their stories until they could recite them in their sleep. Commander Jake Morrison spent his time studying alien psychology. He read everything available about how different species thought, what they expected, what would surprise them. He learned that most advanced civilizations were deeply conservative. They had existed for so long that they had become predictable. They expected others to follow the same patterns they had followed. Humans were different. Humans were young, chaotic, and unpredictable. That was their advantage. 6 months after the project began, Admiral Hayes called everyone together for a final briefing. We're as ready as we're ever going to be. The Kryn have been raiding colonies in the Outer Rim. We've received word that they're planning a major attack on a Millivan settlement. The Millivan are peaceful level 3 and under Council protection. The Council won't act to stop the Kryn, but we will. She looked around the room at the faces of the people who would make this plan work. This is it. This is where we prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars. Not because we're the strongest or the most advanced, but because we're brave enough to claim it and smart enough to make others believe it. In 3 days, we move against the Kryn. In 3 days, we show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. The room erupted in determined voices. Everyone knew the risks. Everyone understood that if they failed, Earth would pay the price. But they also knew that doing nothing was not an option. Humanity had always been the underdog, had always faced impossible odds. This was just one more challenge, one more obstacle to overcome. As the meeting ended and people filed out, Dr. Helen Carter approached Admiral Hayes. "Do you really think this will work?" Admiral Hayes looked at the star chart on the wall, at the vast expanse of space that humanity hoped to explore. "I think that humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We've been knocked down 1,000 times, and every time we've gotten back up. This is just another fight, another chance to prove that we belong here. And yes, I think it will work, because it has to." Part 3. The Kryn Border Patrol detected the human ships 3 hours before they arrived. Commander Garax, the Kryn fleet leader, watched his sensors with growing interest. The humans were coming, and they were coming in force. His screen showed 50 vessels approaching his position, each one broadcasting energy signatures that matched advanced warships. Garax was not worried. He commanded 40 ships, all of them battle-tested and well-armed. The Kryn had been raiding weaker species for centuries. They were predators, and predators did not fear prey. The humans were new to space, barely worth noticing. If they wanted to die, Garax was happy to help them. What Garax did not know was that he was seeing exactly what humanity wanted him to see. Of the 50 ships on his sensors, only 7 were real. The rest were holographic projections created by Dr. Helen Carter's devices. Each projection was positioned perfectly, moving in coordination with the real ships, creating the illusion of a massive fleet. Commander Jake Morrison sat on the bridge of the Valiant, watching his own screens. He could see the real positions of all 7 human ships, but he could also see what the Kryn were seeing. The holographic fleet looked convincing even to him, and he knew it was fake. "All ships, this is Morrison. Remember the plan. Stay hidden among the projections. Let them waste their ammunition on ghosts. When they realize their mistake, we hit them hard and fast." Lieutenant Chris Bennett, now commanding the Defender, responded over the comm. "Understood, sir. My crew is ready." Captain Nicole Sanders aboard the Guardian added her confirmation. "We've been practicing this for months. Time to see if it works." The human fleet continued its approach, and Jake activated the final element of their psychological warfare. Music began broadcasting on all frequencies, loud and aggressive. It was an old Earth song, something with heavy drums and electric guitars. To human ears, it was energizing. To the Kryn, it was incomprehensible noise that seemed to serve no tactical purpose. "Why are they broadcasting noise?" Garax's second-in-command asked. Garax did not have an answer. It made no sense. Species broadcast demands, threats, or surrender terms before battle. They did not play music. Unless the humans were so confident that they considered this fight entertainment. The thought bothered Garax more than he wanted to admit. The human fleet entered weapons range, and Garax gave the order to fire. 40 Kryn ships opened up with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human vessels. The Kryn weapons were powerful, designed to punch through heavy armor and shields, but the weapons passed through their targets harmlessly. The lead human ships rippled like water as the attacks went through them. They were not real. They were projections, illusions, ghosts. Garax felt his confidence waver. "What is this? What kind of technology?" His tactical officer was frantically trying to recalculate. "Sir, our sensors are showing inconsistent readings. Some of these ships aren't where they appear to be. The energy signatures are fluctuating in ways that shouldn't be possible. Find the real ships. Target only vessels that show consistent mass readings." But that was easier said than done. The human projections were mixed in with the real ships, moving in patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully choreographed. Every time the Kryn thought they had identified a real target, it would move behind a projection or the readings would shift. Then the real human ships attacked. 7 vessels against 40, but 7 vessels that the enemy could not properly target. Jake Morrison gave the command, and the Valiant fired its main weapons. The beams were conventional, Nothing special about the technology, but the way the energy was routed made them appear far more powerful on sensors. A Kryn cruiser took the hit and its shields collapsed. The ship was damaged but not destroyed. However, to Kryn sensors reading the energy output, it looked like the human weapon should have vaporized the vessel. The fact that the cruiser survived suggested it had incredibly strong armor, or that the humans were deliberately holding back. Lieutenant Amy Foster's modifications were working perfectly. Every human weapon appeared to be operating at a fraction of its capacity, suggesting that humanity had power to spare. Captain Sanders led her ship in a flanking maneuver, using a cluster of holographic vessels as cover. Her weapons officer fired at a Kryn destroyer, and the shot struck true. The destroyer's engines exploded, sending the ship spinning out of control. The battle descended into chaos. The Kryn fleet was scattered, chasing phantoms and being picked off by real ships they could not track. Jake Morrison broadcast another message, his voice calm and almost bored. "Attention, Kryn vessels. You are participating in a weapons test for the Human Federation. Your performance is being recorded for analysis. We appreciate your cooperation." The message was designed to demoralize, and it worked. The Kryn had gone from confident predators to confused prey. They were being hunted by an enemy they could not see, using technology they did not understand, and the humans were treating it like a training exercise. Garrix made a decision. "All ships, retreat. Fall back to the homeworld." The Kryn fleet turned and ran. Of the 40 ships that had started the battle, only 19 made it out. The rest were disabled or destroyed, drifting in space as evidence of humanity's victory. As the Kryn fled, Jake Morrison allowed himself a small smile. "All ships stand down. Mission accomplished. Let's go home." The 7 human ships regrouped and the holographic projections faded away. They had won, but Jake knew this was just the beginning. The real battle would be maintaining the illusion they had created. News of the battle spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The Kryn survivors told stories of human ships that appeared and disappeared at will, weapons that defied understanding, and a confidence that bordered on madness. Other species heard these stories and began to wonder about humanity. Within a week, the report reached the Galactic Council. Vexthor reviewed the sensor data personally, studying the energy readings and battle recordings that the Kryn had provided. What he saw troubled him deeply. The human fleet had displayed capabilities that did not match their Level 2 classification. Ships that could project false images, weapons with variable power output, tactical coordination that suggested advanced battle computers. Either the Council's initial assessment had been catastrophically wrong, or humanity had deceived them. But the deception would have to be so sophisticated that it would itself indicate advanced technology. You could not fake sensor readings across multiple frequencies without understanding those frequencies at a deep level. You could not create holographic projections that fooled military-grade scanners without mastering advanced physics. Vexthor called a meeting of the Council. Representatives from all 12 member species gathered to discuss the human problem. The chamber was filled with debate and speculation. An insectoid representative from the Thexian cluster spoke first. The humans clearly possessed technology beyond what they initially revealed. The question is why they hid it. A floating jellyfish creature from the Aquarian systems added, "Perhaps they were testing us, seeing how we would react to a seemingly weak species. This could be a calculated strategy." Vexthor listened to the discussions and made his own calculations. Humanity had been given 2 choices: protectorate status or isolation. They had rejected both and instead demonstrated military capability. It was a bold move, perhaps even reckless, but it was also effective. "We must reconsider our assessment," Vexthor announced. "Clearly, humanity is more advanced than we initially believed. I propose we invite their representative back to discuss a new arrangement." The Council agreed. A message was sent to Earth, requesting another meeting with Admiral Hayes. This time, the tone was different. This time, there was respect in the message. On Earth, Admiral Hayes received the communication with mixed feelings. The plan was working, but now came the dangerous part. They had gotten the Council's attention. Now they had to convince them that humanity deserved full membership, not just a better deal. She called her team together. "The Council wants to talk. We've passed the first test, but the next one will be harder. They're going to ask questions, want demonstrations, expect us to share technology. We need to be ready. Dr. Helen Carter looked worried. Admiral, we can maintain the illusion for brief encounters, but extended contact will expose the truth. The more they look, the more they'll see the gaps in our capabilities. Marcus Webb had a solution. Then we don't let them look too closely. We give them information that is technically true but incomplete. We demonstrate technology that is real but make them think it is just the tip of the iceberg. We let their imagination fill in the gaps. It was a risky strategy, but it had worked so far. Admiral Hayes made her decision. Prepare for the meeting. We're going to walk into that council chamber and convince them that humanity belongs among the stars. Not because we're the strongest, but because we're too dangerous to leave out. Part 4. Admiral Linda Hayes walked into the council chamber with a different attitude than her first visit. 6 months ago, she had been polite and deferential, asking for consideration. Now she carried herself with quiet confidence. She had prepared for this moment, rehearsed every word, anticipated every question. The survival of humanity depended on her performance. The 12 council members sat in their designated positions, each one representing a different species. Vexthor, the reptilian spokesman, watched her with calculating eyes. He had reviewed the battle data from the Kryn encounter dozens of times, and he still did not fully understand what he had seen. Admiral Hayes, welcome back. We have reconsidered our initial assessment of humanity. The recent encounter with the Kryn forces has raised questions about your civilization's true capabilities. Linda nodded slowly, as if acknowledging a reasonable point. The Council's initial assessment was based on what we chose to show you. Humanity has learned through difficult experience that revealing one's full capabilities to strangers is unwise. We have existed in isolation not because we were confined there, but because we chose to observe before engaging. It was a carefully worded lie built on a foundation of truth. Humanity had been cautious, though out of weakness rather than strength. But the Council did not know that, and Linda's confident delivery sold the deception. A crystalline being from the Silicon Collective spoke next, its voice like wind chimes. Your vessels displayed technology that appears inconsistent with Level 2 classification. Holographic projection, energy signature manipulation, tactical coordination beyond what basic computers should provide. How do you explain this? Linda had prepared for this question with Marcus Webb's help. The technology you observed is several generations old by our standards. We used it because we wanted to evaluate the Council's observation capabilities, without revealing our current research. What you saw in the battle with the Kryn was adequate for that situation, but it does not represent our full capability. Vexthor leaned forward. You are suggesting that humanity possesses even more advanced technology? Technology that would place you at Level 7 or perhaps Level 8. I am suggesting that classification systems, while useful, do not always capture the full picture. Humanity developed along a different path than most species. We faced extinction-level events multiple times in our history. We survived global wars, planetary climate shifts, and pandemic diseases. Each time we adapted. Our technology reflects that adaptability. It may not look like what you expect, but it is effective. This was the core of their strategy. Do not claim specific capabilities that could be tested. Instead, suggest that humanity was fundamentally different, that normal rules did not apply. Let the Council's imagination do the work. An amphibious creature from the water worlds raised a webbed hand. We have tried to access human technical databases to verify your claims. Our requests have been denied. Why? For the same reason we initially concealed our capabilities. Trust must be earned. The Council offered us 2 choices when we first met: servitude or isolation. Neither option suggested that you viewed us as equals. We are willing to share information, but only with partners, not with those who see us as subjects or curiosities. It was a bold response, almost aggressive, but Linda knew it was necessary. Weak species apologized and explained. Strong species set conditions and demanded respect. Vexthor was silent for a long moment, studying her face. What is it that humanity wants, Admiral? Full membership in the Galactic Council. Equal status, equal voice, equal rights. We are willing to contribute to galactic security, share technology where appropriate, and participate in joint operations. But we will not be a protectorate, and we will not be confined. The Council members began discussing among themselves in their various languages. The translator tried to keep up, but Linda caught only fragments. Some seemed favorable to humanity's request. Others were suspicious. All of them were uncertain, which was exactly what Linda wanted. Uncertainty meant opportunity. Finally, Vexthor spoke again. The Council requires a demonstration. You claim advanced capability, but we need evidence beyond a single battle. We propose a joint operation. There is a threat emerging from beyond the galactic rim, a species called the Vaktul swarm. They are hostile, numerous, and expanding into Council space. We are organizing a military response. If humanity contributes meaningfully to this operation, we will consider full membership. Linda felt her heart sink, but she kept her expression neutral. This was exactly what she had feared. A joint operation meant working alongside Council forces, which meant they would see human ships up close, analyze their capabilities, potentially discover the deception. But refusing would be admission of weakness. We accept. How many ships does the Council request? 15 heavy cruisers would be an appropriate contribution for a level 7 or level 8 civilization. 15 heavy cruisers. Humanity did not have 15 heavy cruisers. They had 7 ships total, and only 2 of them could even loosely be called cruisers. Linda needed to buy time, to find an alternative, to somehow turn this disaster into an opportunity. We will need to review the operational plans before committing specific assets. However, I propose an alternative. Human tactical thinking differs significantly from standard Council doctrine. We have studied your military records and noticed patterns in how you engage hostile forces. The Vaktul likely have studied these patterns as well. What if humanity provides tactical coordination and strategic analysis instead of just additional firepower? Our unconventional approach might be more valuable than 15 more ships following standard procedures. It was a gamble. Linda was offering brains instead of muscle, hoping the Council would see value in a different perspective. Vexthor considered this carefully. Interesting. Your battle with the Kryn did show unusual tactical choices. Very well, we will consider this alternative. But we still require some direct military contribution. Can humanity provide 5 ships? 5 was better than 15. But it was still a problem. Linda made a quick calculation. They could commit 5 ships if they used every trick they had, if they positioned their vessels carefully, if they got lucky. 5 ships plus full tactical support, agreed. The meeting continued for another hour, discussing logistics and timelines. Linda answered questions carefully, always giving enough information to seem cooperative but never enough to expose the truth. By the time she left the chamber, she was exhausted but satisfied. They had bought more time. Back on Earth, the command team gathered for an emergency meeting. Dr. Helen Carter looked stressed. Admiral, we can't do this. 5 ships in a sustained operation alongside Council forces? They'll figure out that we're not level 8. They'll scan our ships, analyze our weapons, see through the modifications. The deception will collapse. Marcus Webb rubbed his temples. We could try to fake it, position our ships carefully, use the holographic projectors, but in actual combat, against an unknown enemy, it's too risky. Commander Jake Morrison had been quiet, but now he spoke up. What if we don't try to match them in firepower? What if we actually do what the Admiral suggested? Focus on tactics and strategy. We use our ships for reconnaissance and coordination, not direct combat. We position ourselves as the brains of the operation, not the muscle. Captain Nicole Sanders nodded. It could work. We have something the Council doesn't: unpredictability. They've been fighting wars the same way for thousands of years. We've only been in space for a few years, which means we don't know what impossible means. We'll try things they would never consider. Lieutenant Amy Foster added her thoughts. And while we're working with them, we learn. We see their technology up close, study their tactics, absorb everything we can. Even if the operation exposes some of our limitations, the knowledge we gain could be worth it. Admiral Hayes listened to her team debate the options. They were right about the risks, but they were also right about the opportunities. This joint operation was dangerous, but it was also a chance to learn from civilizations thousands of years more advanced than humanity. We proceed with the operation, she decided, but we're smart about it. Jake, you'll command the human contingent. Your job is to provide tactical analysis and unconventional solutions. Helen, you'll continue working on our technology, focusing on things that can actually help in combat, not just illusions. Marcus, you'll manage information flow, making sure the Council sees what we want them to see. And all of you will remember, we're not trying to be the strongest. We're trying to be the most useful. Over the next 2 months, humanity prepared for the joint operation. They studied everything available about the Vaktul swarm, They analyzed Council military doctrine and looked for weaknesses and blind spots. They practiced coordination with alien forces, learning to communicate effectively despite different languages and thought processes. Jake Morrison spent hours studying the Vaktul battle recordings. The swarm fought with overwhelming numbers, using simple but effective tactics. They were like locusts, consuming everything in their path. The Council had been fighting them with superior firepower, trying to destroy the swarms faster than they could reproduce. It was working, but barely, and the cost was high. Jake saw something the Council had missed. Part 5, the combined fleet gathered at the edge of Council space, an impressive display of military power. Over 200 ships from a dozen different civilizations, all preparing to face the Vaktul swarm. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the massive alien vessels move into formation around his small human contingent. The human contribution looked insignificant by comparison. 5 ships against 200 seemed almost insulting, but Jake was not worried about appearances anymore. He was focused on the mission, on proving that humanity had something valuable to offer beyond raw firepower. The Council had assigned a Zarathian admiral named Krell to command the operation. Krell was a veteran of 100 battles, a warrior from a species that had built their reputation on military strength. He was professional but skeptical when he met with Jake via holographic communication. "Commander Morrison, your ships will form the reconnaissance wing. Stay at the edge of the engagement zone and provide sensor data. Do not engage the swarm directly unless absolutely necessary. Is that understood?" Jake nodded, knowing that Krell was essentially keeping humans out of the real fight. That was fine. It gave them the perfect position to observe and analyze without exposing their limitations. "Understood, Admiral. We'll provide detailed tactical analysis as the battle develops." Captain Nicole Sanders, commanding the Guardian, spoke on the private human channel. "He doesn't trust us. Thinks we're going to be a liability." "Let him think that," Jake replied. "We'll prove our worth when it matters." The fleet moved forward into Vaktul territory. They did not have to wait long for contact. The swarm appeared on sensors like a dark cloud, thousands of organic ships moving in coordinated patterns. Each individual vessel was small and weak, but together they formed an almost unstoppable force. Admiral Krell gave the order to engage. The Council fleet opened fire with devastating effect. Energy weapons cut through the swarm like knives through water. Missiles exploded in brilliant bursts, each one taking out dozens of Vaktul ships. The firepower was impressive, overwhelming, but the swarm kept coming. For every 100 ships destroyed, 200 more appeared. They flowed around the Council forces, attacking from multiple angles, never staying in one place long enough to be effectively targeted. Jake watched the battle unfold and saw exactly what he had expected. The Council was fighting with brute force, trying to kill faster than the swarm could replace losses. It was working, but the cost was enormous. Several Council ships had already taken damage, their shields buckling under the relentless assault. Lieutenant Bennett, start analyzing the swarm's coordination patterns. I want to know how they're communicating, how they're staying organized. Chris Bennett worked his sensors using human equipment that was less powerful than Council technology, but more flexible. He could adjust frequencies and search patterns in ways that the more advanced alien systems could not. After 20 minutes of analysis, he found something interesting. "Sir, there's a low-frequency signal running through the entire swarm. It's almost like background noise, easy to miss unless you're specifically looking for it. I think it's how they coordinate. Individual ships receive instructions through this frequency and adjust their behavior accordingly." Jake felt excitement building. "Can we disrupt it?" "We don't have the power to jam it across the entire battlefield, but we could create interference patterns. Make the signal unreliable in specific areas. The swarm ships in those areas would lose coordination. Do it. Target the area where the swarm is thickest. Let's see what happens when they can't talk to each other." The Valiant and its sister ships began broadcasting carefully designed interference patterns. It took several minutes for the effect to become visible, but when it did, the results were dramatic. A section of the swarm suddenly became disorganized. Ships collided with each other, attack patterns fell apart, and the coordinated assault turned into chaos. Admiral Krell noticed immediately. "What is happening? Why is the swarm formation breaking down in Sector 7? Jake opened a channel to the Council flagship, Admiral, we've identified their coordination frequency and disrupted it. The swarm relies on constant communication to maintain formation. Without it, they're just thousands of individual ships getting in each other's way. Krell processed this information quickly. He was a veteran and he knew an opportunity when he saw one. Can you expand the disruption? We're working on it, sir. We need to position our ships to cover more area. If you could provide covering fire while we maneuver. Acknowledged. All Council vessels provide support for Human Reconnaissance Wing. They are now Priority 1 protection. The battle's dynamics shifted. The Council fleet adapted their tactics, focusing fire on organized sections of the swarm while the human ships moved to create interference in new areas. Everywhere the humans went, the swarm's coordination collapsed. What had been an unstoppable tide became a confused mass of individual vessels. Captain Sanders maneuvered the Guardian into a dangerous position, right at the edge of the swarm's main formation. Morrison, we're in position. Activating disruption in Sector 12. Another section of the swarm fell into chaos. Vactal ships crashed into each other, unable to coordinate their movements. The Council forces pressed their advantage, destroying the disorganized vessels with concentrated fire. Over the next 3 hours, the battle turned into a rout. The Vactal swarm, so terrifying when coordinated, became manageable when disrupted. The Council fleet systematically destroyed the confused alien vessels, suffering minimal casualties in the process. When the last swarm ship was destroyed, Admiral Krell contacted Jake personally. Commander Morrison, your tactical analysis changed the outcome of this battle. Without your discovery, we would have won, but at great cost. Many ships and crews would have been lost. On behalf of the Council fleet, you have my gratitude and respect. It was exactly the outcome Admiral Hayes had hoped for. Humanity had proven valuable not through superior weapons or larger numbers, but through unconventional thinking and tactical innovation. Back on Earth, news of the victory spread quickly. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss humanity's membership application. This time there was no debate. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would be granted full membership with all rights and privileges. Admiral Hayes received the news with mixed emotions. They had achieved their goal, secured humanity's place among the stars. But the deception continued. They were still claiming capabilities they did not possess, still pretending to be more advanced than they actually were. Dr. Helen Carter approached her privately after the announcement. Admiral, we've bought ourselves time and opportunity, but we can't maintain this deception forever. Eventually someone is going to look too closely, ask too many questions, and discover the truth. I know, Linda replied. That's why we need to make the lie become truth. We have access now, access to Council technology and knowledge. We have relationships with advanced civilizations. We need to use this time to actually develop the capabilities we've been claiming. In 5 years, maybe 10, we won't be pretending anymore. Marcus Webb joined the conversation. We're already seeing benefits. The technology exchange programs are providing us with advances that would have taken decades to discover on our own. Our scientists are working alongside alien experts, learning at an incredible rate. The lie is becoming less dishonest with each passing day. Lieutenant Amy Foster had good news to share. Admiral, I've been working with a Thexian engineer on energy systems. They showed me a power generation technique that we can actually implement. It's not as advanced as their latest technology, but it's years ahead of what we had. If we can integrate this into our ships, we'll legitimately be level 5, maybe level 6. Jake Morrison summarized the situation best. We claimed to be level 8 when we were level 2. We're now approaching level 5. The gap is closing. Eventually we'll reach level 8 for real, and then the deception stops being a deception. It becomes just a story about how humanity bluffed its way to the stars. Captain Sanders raised a concern. What happens if we're discovered before then? If someone proves we've been lying? Admiral Hayes had thought about this question many times. Then we deal with the consequences. But here's what I've learned about the galaxy. Everyone respects results. We helped win a major battle against the Vactul using tactics that no one else had considered. We're contributing to Council operations, sharing ideas, making ourselves useful. Even if they discovered we exaggerated our capabilities, they would see that we're valuable partners. The lie got us in the door, but our actions since then have justified our presence. She looked around at her team. at the people who had made this impossible plan work. We're not stopping. We're going to keep learning, keep advancing, keep pushing ourselves, and one day, probably sooner than the Council expects, humanity will genuinely be one of the galaxy's advanced civilizations, not because we were born to it, but because we worked for it. Over the following months, humanity's integration into galactic society continued. They participated in more joint operations, always finding ways to contribute without exposing their technological limitations. They established trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and scientific partnerships. And all the while, Part 6, 3 years after humanity joined the Galactic Council, Admiral Jake Morrison found himself facing the most difficult decision of his career. The Earth Defense Force had grown substantially. They now had 20 genuine warships, each incorporating technology from multiple alien civilizations adapted to human needs. They were no longer pretending to be powerful. They were actually becoming powerful, but success had brought new problems. The Council had come to rely on human tactical innovation. They requested human participation in almost every major operation, and now they were asking for something that humanity could not deliver. 15 heavy cruisers for a massive joint operation against a new threat. Jake sat in his office reviewing the request. The Confederation of Free Worlds, a coalition of independent species, was threatening Council territory. They had legitimate grievances about Council policies, but they were also building a military force that could destabilize the entire region. The Council wanted to show strength, to deploy overwhelming force that would make the Confederation back down without actual fighting. The problem was clear. Humanity had 20 ships total, and only 8 could be classified as heavy cruisers by galactic standards. They could not provide 15. And unlike 3 years ago, they could not fake it. This operation would involve close coordination with Council forces over extended periods. Holographic projections and energy signature tricks would not work. Dr. Helen Carter came to his office that evening. She looked tired. 3 years of pushing human technology forward had taken its toll on everyone. Jake, I've run the numbers every way I can. We cannot provide 15 heavy cruisers. We don't have them, and we can't build them fast enough. If we commit everything we have, we leave Earth defenseless. And even then, it's not enough. What if we tell them the truth? Jake asked quietly. Helen sat down heavily. After 3 years of pretending to be level 8? After all the operations we've participated in, all the technology we've hinted at? They'll feel betrayed. Some Council members already suspect we exaggerated our capabilities. This would confirm it. Lieutenant Amy Foster, now a commander in charge of technology development, had a different perspective. Maybe it's time. We're not the same civilization that walked into the Council chamber 3 years ago. We've learned, grown, contributed. We've fought alongside them, bled alongside them. We've earned our place even if we got it through deception initially. Captain Nicole Sanders agreed. The lie served its purpose. It got us in the door, bought us time to actually develop. But maintaining it is becoming harder than just being honest about where we are. We're genuinely level 6 now, approaching level 7. That's impressive for a species that achieved faster than light travel only 4 years ago. Jake listened to his advisors and made his decision. I'm going to Earth to speak with Admiral Hayes. This is too big for me to decide, alone. Admiral Linda Hayes had retired from active military service, but still served as Earth's primary representative to the Council. She had been the architect of the deception, and she understood its costs better than anyone. When Jake explained the situation, she was silent for a long time. I knew this day would come, she finally said. We always knew the lie had an expiration date. The question is whether we're strong enough now to survive the truth. What do you think will happen if we confess? Some Council members will be angry. The Zorathians especially will feel humiliated that they were deceived. But others, like Vexthor, probably already suspect. They've been watching us carefully. They've seen how quickly we're advancing, how we always find ways to avoid situations that would expose our limitations. Hayes walked to her window, looking out at the city below. But here's what I believe: the galaxy respects results. We've participated in 8 major operations. We've provided tactical analysis that saved thousands of lives. We've shared our unconventional thinking and made the Council more effective. We've been good members, good partners. That has to count for something. So we tell them, but we do it right. We don't just confess that we lied. We explain why we lied, what we've accomplished since then, and what we're prepared to contribute going forward. We turn it from a story about deception into a story about a young species that was brave enough to claim a place it hadn't yet earned, then worked hard enough to actually earn it. 2 weeks later, Admiral Hayes and Admiral Morrison stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was full, every representative present. They knew something important was about to happen. The formal request for 15 heavy cruisers had been on the agenda for days, and humanity had been strangely silent. Vexthor opened the session. Admiral Hayes, Admiral Morrison, the Council awaits humanity's response to our request for military support. Linda took a deep breath and began. Before we respond to that request, humanity needs to make a confession. 3 years ago, when I first appeared before this council, I told you that we had concealed our capabilities, that we were more advanced than your initial assessment suggested. That was partially true. We had concealed our capabilities, but not because we were advanced. We concealed them because we were afraid. The chamber erupted in confused voices. Vexthor called for silence. Explain yourself, Admiral. When humanity first encountered the Council, we were classified as Level 2. That assessment was accurate. We had 47 ships, primitive weapons, basic technology. We were given 2 choices: become a protectorate or remain isolated. Both options meant the end of human independence and growth. So we made a decision. We would convince you that we were advanced enough to deserve full membership, and then we would work to actually become that advanced. Jake took over the explanation. We used holographic projections, energy signature manipulation, and tactical deception to create the illusion of a larger, more capable fleet. The battle with the Kryn was real, but the 50 ships they saw were mostly projections. We had 7 real vessels. Every operation since then, we've used similar tactics to hide our limitations while we work to overcome them. The council chamber was completely silent now. Every representative was focused on the 2 humans standing before them. Vexthor's expression was unreadable. Linda continued. We did this not out of malice, but out of survival. We knew that if humanity accepted protectorate status, we would never advance. We would become dependent, stagnant, trapped. We believed that humanity had potential, that given the opportunity and access to galactic knowledge, we could become worthy partners. We were asking you to invest in what we could become, not what we were. And what have you become? Vexthor asked quietly. We're level 6, approaching level 7. In 3 years, we've advanced further than most species do in 50. We've participated in every operation we committed to. We've provided tactical analysis that has saved Council lives. We've shared our ideas and unconventional thinking. We've been, we hope, valuable members of this community. Admiral Morrison addressed the military reality directly. We cannot provide 15 heavy cruisers. We have 8, and committing all of them would leave Earth defenseless. But we can provide those 8 ships, plus tactical coordination for the entire operation. We can share intelligence analysis that might find alternatives to direct confrontation. We can do what we've done in every operation, think differently and find solutions that others miss. The council deliberated for hours. The humans were dismissed while the representatives debated among themselves. Jake and Linda waited in an antechamber, uncertain of their fate. Everything they had worked for, everything humanity had achieved, hung in the balance. Finally, they were called back. Vexthor spoke for the council. Humanity deceived us. This is a serious breach of trust. Several members have argued for sanctions, for revoking your membership, for reducing your status. Jake felt his heart sink. They had gambled and lost, but Vexthor continued. However, other members, including myself, have argued that context matters. You deceived us, yes, but you did so to escape an impossible choice. And in the 3 years since, you have been exemplary members. You have contributed meaningfully to every operation. You have shared your knowledge freely. You have proven your value not through the weapons you possess, but through the ideas you contribute. The reptilian representative stood, his full height impressive and intimidating. The council has made a decision. Humanity will retain full membership. However, your classification is officially reduced to level 6, with acknowledgement of rapid advancement toward level 7. You will not be required to contribute 15 heavy cruisers to the current operation. Instead, you will provide tactical coordination and 8 ships, if you can spare them without compromising Earth's defense. Furthermore, the Council recognizes that humanity's rapid advancement is unprecedented and valuable. We are establishing a special technology development partnership. Human researchers will receive increased access to Council scientific databases. In exchange, humanity will share your tactical innovations and unconventional problem-solving approaches with other member species. Linda felt relief wash over her. Thank you. We will honor this trust and continue to prove ourselves worthy of membership. A crystalline being from the Silicon Collective added its voice. I must say, the audacity of what humanity attempted is remarkable.